me for, man. Your dad said you beat Golovkin. Golovkin destroyed me and you on the same night. How about that? Right? He's the only man I know who can beat Golovkin. He's better than Floyd Mayweather Jr. Did you?
That's coming from Billy Joe Saunders. That was during a press conference between him and Chris Eubank Jr. Chris Eubank Jr., the WBA #1 contender for Danny Jacobs' world 160-pound title. Now, Billy Joe Saunders has been saying for the good part, for the good portion of a year or maybe over, that he wasn't or is not good enough to beat Gennady Golovkin. Here he says, you hear him say to Chris Eubank Jr., Golovkin would beat you and I on the same night. You know, this is a man that you have to, you know, he's keeping it honest, but at the same point in time, he's clearly ducking Gennady Golovkin, and right now he just wants to hold on to his belt as long as he possibly can. Let's hear what Frank Warren has to say. Frank Warren basically is saying that he feels it'll be a bigger fight later on down the line. Now, from my understanding, Billy Joe Saunders was offered somewhere between $2 to $4 million. I'm thinking more on the lower end, around $2 million or so, to fight Gennady Golovkin in April, Madison Square Garden, April the 23rd, 2016. Billy Joe Saunders is saying that he can get other fights to make more money. But when you look at the WBO is one of the more stricter organizations. So you have to fight somebody within their top 15 as a voluntary and fight someone in the top, basically you have to fight the next #1 guy as a mandatory. So Billy Joe Saunders has one fight in between before he has to fight a mandatory, who is Arif Magomedov, who's the NABO champion from Russia. So anybody in the top 15 that I'm looking at as far as the WBO, I don't see where he can make $1 million unless he signed with Al Heyman. I mean, let me just read some names off to you: Hugo Centeno, Antoine Douglas, Artur Akevov, Tommy Langford, Lejas Nagy, Turiano Johnson, who's Golovkin's likely going to be fighting. I'm going to talk about that later on in the video. Ryota Murado, Hassan Endam, somebody's name who I can't pronounce, that you never heard of, somebody's name I can't pronounce you never heard of, Kerry Hope, and Dominic Wade. Where can he make in 2 fights $3 million? Now, people are saying, well, he can fight Chris Eubank Jr. in the rematch. How is he going to fight Chris Eubank Jr. for the WBO title when Chris Eubank Jr. is not ranked by the WBO? Also, Chris Eubank Jr. is taking a fight with Nick Blackwell? If I'm correct, and I remember I covered that fight, he's Billy Joe Saunders' leftovers. And Chris Eubank Jr. is he can easily fight Danny Jacobs. They can put that fight together. So I'm thinking to myself, you know, it's no way to justify this move of not fighting Golovkin next unless Billy Joe Saunders just wants to hold on to the title. And when it comes to Frank Warren, I'm pretty much sure him and Frank Warren are honest with each other and telling each other, listen, if you fight Golovkin now in your next fight after winning the title, you're going to likely lose. Or if you may lose, then we have to start you all over, get you a title, you know, shot again. And right now it just looks like they just want to hold on to the belt. That's what it looks like to me. They just want to hold on to the belt. So it's looking like Gennady Golovkin is going to be fighting IBF #1 contender Turiano Johnson, and it's looking like the IBF is very close to ordering that fight. He's going to have to fight Turiano Johnson, and then it's crazy, you know, that now Golovkin's plans to be, he's saying the reason why he won't move up to fight Andre Ward, or the reason why he won't move up to 168 pounds, is because he wants to have all the belts in the 160-pound division. Now, he has the WBA Super World and the IBF. The WBA World is not really counted because he has the belt that ranks above that. So you could take Danny Jacobs out of the picture. Canelo was the WBC. Canelo's on some bullshit, basically saying, you know, 90-10 split or whatever the case. Oscar De La Hoya saying if he had it his way, it would be a 90-10 split. Then you got Canelo saying the only way the fight is going to happen is that it has to happen at 155 pounds. Then also we're hearing that the fight may not happen until May of 2017. No time in 2016. It's not happening in May of 2016, and it's likely not happening in September of 2016. So you're thinking to yourself, well, what is Gennady Golovkin going to do for opponents when it's really literally nobody wants to fight him? Now, if Andy Lee would have won the title, I'm not confident that Andy Lee versus Gennady Golovkin would have happened. Andy Lee is promoted by Lou DiBella. Lou DiBella works with Al Heyman on Al Heyman cards, who also promotes Danny Jacobs, and they were talking about Danny Jacobs versus Andy Lee, you know, for that WBO. Now, when it comes to the WBA world and the WBO, from my understanding, the WBO doesn't unify with the WBA world. It would have to be the super world. It's you know, when it comes to these belts, for one, it's entirely too many of them, and they're just making up extra belts so fighters don't have to fight each other. I wouldn't be surprised if they come up with a WBO interim belt just for Golovkin. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, you know, at all if they come up with some type of belt because Golovkin wants to conquer the division. It's a shame because when it comes to Billy Joe Saunders, it's nowhere in the contract that he has to fight. It's nowhere in his title reign that he has to fight Golovkin. The WBO won't say, okay, well, Billy Joe, you have to fight Golovkin because Golovkin is a champion in two other sanctioning bodies. So right now it's just looking like Billy Joe Saunders, you know, it's no excuse I can give then that Billy Joe Saunders is ducking Billy Joe Saunders is ducking Gennady Golovkin. Because me knowing the political landscape and me knowing who Billy Joe Saunders can and cannot fight, I'm thinking, well, you got a guy out there who's offering you the most money you could possibly get. Cotto's not going to fight you. Canelo's not going to fight you. And now it's like, where else do you go? You know, he can't make no $3 million fighting no Chris Eubank Jr. in a rematch. I don't know. I don't know. But if that fight is to happen for the WBO title, Chris Eubank Jr. has got to get ranked by the WBO. And he's already #1 contender for the WBA world. So politically, I'm thinking they can push this shit off on the average fan that don't know nothing about the politics. But I know what's going on. I know from looking at everything as a whole that Billy Joe just doesn't want to fight. It is what it is. T Street Controversy Live. I cover every single major fight live. Please subscribe.